The offensive woes for the Twins continued as they fell to the Yankees on Wednesday evening 4-0. The Twins have now been held off the scoreboard for 17 straight innings, and it won't get much easier with Clarke Schmidt coming up in a Thursday matinee. We'll have the full wrap-up and look forward to the finale. We're looking forward to it in more ways than one on tonight's show. This is the Locked On Twins Postcast.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, hi, how are ya? It's Locked On Twins and the Locked On Twins Postcast. I'm your host. I am Brandon Warren. I am doing the fill-in duties, wearing the backwards cap as an homage to Luke Inman. It's another tough loss to the Yankees, and joining me to talk about it is Mr. Lou Hennessy at Sweet Lou MN on Twitter. How's it going, man?
Not too bad, man. You got the spitting image of Luke Inman in you right now.
Yeah, and I got a little tickle in my throat, so my voice is a little deeper than usual, which has me sounding exactly like, well, as close to Luke as I can. But we'll do our best to do his place justice here. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on Twitter at Brandon_WARNE. And thanks for making Locked On Twins and the Locked On Twins Postcast your first listens every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. We love to hear from you in the comments, especially on these live shows. So hit us up. The good comments show up on the screen. Give us something to talk about, because the offense certainly did not do that in this one. From breaks to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors, who is tonight's sponsor, has over 122 million parts to keep your ride alive. With all the parts you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to bring home a big win. So keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. And the Twins have not scored in 17 innings, so not since the Ryan Jeffers leadoff homer against Carlos Rodon to open the series. 9 runs for the Yankees in the 2 games, so not exactly as though the Twins have been bowled over. And it's not feeling like, Lou, I guess, you know, we talked about the season series last year and the Twins finally breaking through and winning it. These have not felt like the classic Twins-Yankees games where there's like a dominant force keeping the Twins from winning. It's more along the lines of like, they're just not executing on offense. They're not getting timely hits or just enough hits. I don't feel like this is a crushing, like, oh, it's the Yankees again. It's more just like the Twins are losing normal ball games.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty uneventful tonight. They had a few opportunities with guys on the corners, guys at first and second, and untimely event of Carlos Correa hitting into his first double play this year after hitting into 30 last year, leading the league. So, kind of, like you said, not necessarily the ultimate beatdown that maybe we're used to seeing in the last 15 years or whatever playing the Yankees, but still not enough to take it over tonight.
Twins 24-18 on the season, 2 back in the Central as Cleveland did not take advantage. And Twins now have dropped 3 of the last 4. Doesn't get any easier with the Thursday matinee against Clarke Schmidt, who has been solid this year, sub-3 ERA. And so, as much as the name value of the first 2 starters for the Yankees comes to mind, Schmidt's not going to be much easier. By the way, you can catch every pitch of the Twins hometown broadcast with Chris and Paul Molitor, who, again, I can't say enough good things about doing the radio color commentary. I think he does a great job. But you can catch them on SiriusXM. Download the SXM app. Just search Twins. Up next, it's Joe Ryan, Clarke Schmidt on Thursday. Make sure I get my days correct here. 12:10 first pitch. So it's an early one if you're driving downtown. Make sure to get there early because it's a bear to park on those day game, work day, businessman special. So finale there. Then the Twins pack up, hit the road for Cleveland, which to me is it's going to be a pretty exciting series. And we'll talk maybe for just a second about not only Ryan and Schmidt, but maybe look forward just a little bit because there will be no postcast after the matinee tomorrow. Twins, as I said, 24-18 on the season, 11-10 at home. Yankees now 16 road wins and 29 total wins. So again, they are taking care of business away from Yankee Stadium. And to me, that's the sign of a dangerous team because teams almost always take care of business at home. It's not often a team will be above 500 at or on the road and not at home. So, I'm not feeling bad about losing to this Yankees team in the sense that it's not like, there's been some Yankee teams that have been not great the last few years. I mean, a not great Yankee team still finishes 500, which goes to show just kind of the expectations there. This is a good Yankees team, but at the same time, too, like the offense is just punchless. And in this one, 6 strikeouts. So it wasn't even like they were swinging and missing. It was just weak contact. And Stroman didn't get all the grounders he usually does either. It was just kind of a snoozer is kind of how I would say it.
Yeah, and some of the balls that were even hit, you could say, were, caught in the outfield on the warning track. We saw Carlos Santana late in the game with what off the bat I thought looked pretty good. I thought that was leaving, but gets tracked down by Verdugo out there in the warning track. And yeah, that's just, like you said, not a ton of strikeouts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that runs were aplenty.
Yeah, no question about that. And really, again, in the series, the Yankees have outscored the Twins 9-1. It's not like they're running away. Now, with that said, Aaron Judge opens the scoring with a home run that I'm not certain has landed yet. Anthony Volpe follows with a sac fly in the second. Another single run in the third as Giancarlo Stanton, one night after hitting a homer, gets a broken bat single to drive in, you guessed it, Aaron Judge. And then Aaron Judge doubles in the seventh for some insurance there for not only Marcus Stroman, but Luke Weaver and Caleb Ferguson. So this is what a 4-for-4 game with 4 extra base hits does for your slash line at this point in the season. Aaron Judge came in hitting .236 with a .370 on base and a .490 slugging percentage. So for mere mortals, that's a pretty good slash line. Now, that's now up to .255, so almost a 20-point jump in average, .386 on base, so a 16-point jump in OBP, and a 50-point jump to .540. So .255, .386, .540. That's the kind of line that gets you MVP consideration when you're playing pretty good defense in center field. Have the Twins awakened a sleeping giant, literally and figuratively, in Aaron Judge?
Oh boy, it sure seems like it. Patrick Royce had a great tweet after that home run that said it felt like it was chasing after the train out there and beyond left field. And like you said, it feels like it could still be flying. I thought it was really interesting. They brought up that Aaron Judge has never had a 5-hit game, for as prolific as a hitter as he is and how many multi-hit games he goes through. Part of that too is how good his eye is and how often he walks. And
yeah, he did walk in this one too. So
yep. So that'll block him. But yeah, what's that? 11 total bases in the game tonight, I think.
Math 10, I think.
10.
6 plus 4. I'm not good at math. My understanding was there would be no math. But yeah, again, you can't expect to keep a guy like that down. And now I'm not sure there's a more dangerous back-to-back punch across all of MLB between Juan Soto and him. I mean, Juan Soto now has a lower slugging percentage than Aaron Judge. That's how much this game made Judge jump, and Soto is squarely in the MVP consideration. It's been a while since we've seen MVP, easy for me to say, candidates batting back-to-back, but I think that might be the case here. So if they get anything from Verdugo, Stanton, Rizzo, Torres, all these guys who've been there before and have hit in the past, this Yankees team goes from, pretty darn good to pretty dang scary. And, they start thinking about maybe getting Garrett Cole back at some time. Clarke Schmidt looks like he's turned a corner. I don't know, man. The AL East is tricky. Baltimore is so good and so young, but I'm not sleeping on the Yankees. No question about that.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to say that they were preseason. I don't know if they were favorites in the division with Baltimore there, but they were always going to be in the conversation, it felt like, to be competitive for one of those top spots. And we're seeing exactly why in those first 2 games. Like you said, the 2 juggernauts of Soto and Judge is about as good as you can get. And some of those secondary players have been stepping up, not only drawing walks and being on base for those juggernauts, but also driving in some runs themselves.
Yep, no doubt about that. Let's take a quick second and give some love to eBay Motors. When we come back, we'll talk about Pablo. We'll talk about Marcus Stroman, who to me wasn't terribly impressive, but got the job done. I mean, a 4-hit shutout, no matter how you slice it, between him and a few bullpen guys is impressive no matter what. We'll talk about Luke Weaver, who I think has really turned a corner. And we'll even get into some Clarke Schmidt discussion with Joe Ryan coming up here in the matinee. But again, first, a word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience are the formula for winning championships and also what keep your ride alive and on the road. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether you want a supercharger, roof rack, exhaust kit, LED headlights, and much, much more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, performance, all of that, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, yes, million, for your number one ride, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or you get your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home a huge victory. Keep your ride alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, we are coming down the stretch. Well, not the stretch here, I guess. We're in the middle innings, technically speaking. Pablo Lopez gave up 8 hits in the first 3 innings, 10 total, so 22 hits by Twins starting pitchers the last 2 games. Part of it, it's like, okay, the Yankees can really hit. They had their hitting shoes on, finished with 13 hits night after. It was either 12 or 13 last night. Either way, you're talking 25, 26 hits in back-to-back nights. But Pablo battled. He showed why he is, you want to have a stopper when things start going sideways. But at the same time, too, like, even a guy who just keeps you in a game when things are going sideways and doesn't, blow up your bullpen. 2 2/3 innings from Cody Funder down under and Josh Stalmont is not going to blow up your bullpen. You're in good shape for the finale. And especially, too, in good shape, hopefully going into the weekend, which is going to be obviously a pivotal series against the Guards. I thought, Pablo, 3 strikeouts, no walks, did give up, again, that home run that we're still awaiting a landing spot for. In general, it wasn't Pablo Day the way we're used to it, but he still battled. And that's, that's what we wanted. We talked about when Jose Barrios became the guy in Minnesota, and it was when he could stop the bleeding. I feel like Pablo can do that, but the offense just had nothing, like absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's the story of the game. And I think, this wasn't his most impressive start, Pablo's, that is. But it's the kind of start that's really important for fans to see, that when he doesn't have exactly his right stuff or his sharpest stuff, that he can still get out there and chew some innings up and keep the game in a competitive spot, even though tonight it certainly felt like more like mountains with that three-run lead for most of the game.
How much stock do you put into like XBA, or so expected batting average, on Baseball Savant, where it tells you basically quality of contact, all that stuff? It kind of, it aggregates what that team's offense looked like on the evening. Yankees expected batting average of 333, Twins 250. Do you look at that at the end of the game and say, oh yeah, the Twins should have done this or should have done that? Does that matter much to you?
To a certain extent, I think it does matter. And I think it matters for someone like Pablo so that he doesn't overcompensate in his next start. He made a few mistakes today for sure. Looking at that Aaron Judge home run, it was pretty much put on a tee for him. But beyond that, I know that Pablo's the kind of person that does look at that and says, look, those hits are not going to fall. I'm not going to give up 8 to 10 hits with these results or with this stuff that I'm using. But I'm sure that players are definitely using that and taking that into account.
So walk me through this second inning, because it got a little kooky. Rizzo flies to left, Gleiber singles, Trevino singles, Cabrera singles, and Volpe hits a sac fly to center. And that's what the box score will tell you. Not the whole story. Willie Castro has been pressed into duty. Honestly, his entire Twins tenure has kind of been like, all right, Willie's the guy that has to do this or that or that. So you got to give him his flowers. You got to give him credit, because he has been a willful participant no matter what the Twins have asked of him. But he's had a few plays in center that, he's shown maybe a little bit of inexperience. And what I go back to also, I was watching some highlights of Willie when it became known he was going to make the team last year. And he had a play in left field when he was with the Tigers where he just made a meal out of it. So again, he has come very, very far as an outfielder, to the point now where I don't think there's any hesitation whatsoever putting him out there. But just a lapse in judgment. You can't have those against the Yankees. You can't have those when your offense isn't putting up runs. And then to double down on that, launching the ball after the flyout to I don't even know where that ended up either. Just not an inning where our friend Willie covered himself in glory.
Yeah, a boneheaded move for sure to forget the outs there. But overall, I think that if we're talking about a backup in center field, if Byron Buxton can't be out there, for right now, he's as good as it's going to get. I have not been very impressed with Manny Margot's defense. First of all, they don't really trust him in center field anymore. But even in the corners, I haven't been super impressed with what he's got. Austin Martin, we could see play a little bit more, but yeah. Like you said, Willie Castro's 25, 26 years old, and I'm not trying to make any excuses for a lapse in judgment there. That's a huge mistake. Obviously, he was very frustrated by it. And those mistakes, like you said, can't happen against the Yankees. But I saw a lot of people really pouring on when Judge hit, it must have been his third double of the night, and it soared over his head. I don't think he had much of a chance of that, even with a good jump, and people were really on top of him, at least online. About that missed opportunity, but really it didn't miss anything at all. That was going to be a double right off the bat. But yeah, I'm hoping that Byron can feel good tonight or after tonight's game. He started a rehab assignment with the Saints. The plan is for him to play again tomorrow and then reevaluate over the weekend. It'll be nice to see him out there in center field, hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah, no denying that you definitely feel a lot more confident with Buck out there. Again, I don't know. I mean, I'm still nervous about the knee with Buxton because it felt like it just kind of gradually got worse and worse and worse until things came to a head on that play where he was attempting to steal second base. So I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping when he comes back, he can hit the ground running, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But it's cautious optimism, and to say that I'm guarded would be putting it quite lightly. What are your early thoughts on Pablo? 3.93 ERA. That's not an ace ERA, but again, it's, handful of starts in. He's been a guy who sometimes starts slow, sometimes ends slow. Been a little different every year. In general, though, I mean, this is a rotation that people on the projection side of things seem to like a lot more than maybe the fans did. And again, seeing Sonny Gray walk out the door is fresh in everyone's mind. But the rotation has been more good than bad. I think quite a bit more good than bad. How have you felt like Pablo has kind of slotted in there?
I think he slotted in right where he finished last year, basically. 3.93 ERA might not be exciting on the surface, but his strikeout rate's slightly up. His walk rate's slightly lower. He's given up a fewer home runs than I think at this point last year, which I want to say it was around the end of May last year that he started to have a little bit of a rough stretch too.
Yeah, that's when it coincided with Luis Arraez hitting like 400.
Oh, of course it did. But so, I think that he's still right up at the top of their picture, and fans should be really excited for what they've seen out of him so far. I'm sure he was disappointed with the team's result tonight, and he will probably say that he has to do better and that it starts with him. But overall, if we're looking at it from a first 6 weeks of the season standpoint, I think he's been as expected.
Yeah, I would say fine, not great, not bad, just kind of, it is what it is. A guy who, though, is battling and not at his peak with a sub-4 ERA, it's pretty telling. Like, that's how you know a guy is pretty dang good, when the expectations are an ERA better than that. Let's take a quick break, give some love to Prize Picks. When we come back, I want to talk a little Marcus Stroman, who came in struggling. I want to talk a little bit of a Joe Ryan versus Clarke Schmidt preview, and whatever else we decide to wrap up with. But again, first, a word from Prize Picks. Prize Picks is North America's largest daily fantasy sports platform, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to play because it's just you against the numbers. You're not playing against a million people entering the contest, nudging you out of the winnings, and you just you don't have to deal with anybody doing a goofy algorithm or any kind of thing that you can't compete with. It's just you. It's just the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can do Demons and Goblins, a fun new feature where demon picks are marked in red. They're risky. They get your heart rate going a little bit, get that blood pumping, but there's big accelerators, like 100 times on the ones that are especially risky. So you put down 10, you could come home with $1,000. But again, big risk. You got to be aware of the risk. But if you're more cautious, you can always do a goblin pick. I have always kind of struggled with the idea of a goblin being a less risky thing, because I've always thought of goblins like ghosts and goblins from the old video games back when I was a kid. But for them, the goblin picks are marked green. They're a little bit more safe. They keep you in the green and allow you to land consistent victories. Lower payouts, of course. But again, you can keep your winning streak going much more easily. So if you're into the NBA, we are deep into the second round. In fact, some teams are done with the second round. You can pick more than or less than, though, on three-pointers made, turnovers committed, you name it. With MLB, any stat you can imagine, they have it for you. Baseball is a great game for stats. I know, Lou, you appreciate those as much as I do. So, again, download the app today. Enter code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB. It's all one word, and it's all lowercase. I always try to emphasize with my hands to make sure that I'm very, very clear about that. But you get a first deposit match up to $100. Join Prize Picks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, we're coming down the home stretch here. Marcus Stroman came in with in his last 6 starts spanning 30 and 2/3 innings, a 5.28 ERA, a 6.10 FIP, so fielding independent pitching, 925 OPS against, 30 strikeouts, which Stroman doesn't always strike out a guy per inning, which is good, but 19 walks. Walks 3, strikes out 2, and almost as many, actually more fly balls, 9, than grounders, 8. He's always been a big ground ball guy, which, short guy, downward plane, all that stuff that we discuss kind of ad nauseum in baseball circles. But Twins not getting to him. How frustrating do you feel like that is when you see his numbers, hear his numbers, and know that not only the Twins not get to him, but other than the second inning, they had like a guy on base and nobody more the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating.
Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. It's extremely frustrating. Stroman's not the kind of guy with the most overpowering stuff, but he's somebody who gets you to eat right out of his hand with his execution. And we saw that in full force tonight. Like you said, it just felt like there was only, one guy on base per inning, and they just really couldn't do much with it. And really, I would call it a scoregami for Stroman. Like you said, more fly ball outs than ground balls. It's pretty bizarre to see from him.
Paul Molitor was talking to Mark Janoski in the post-game show. That they usually do the color commentator talking to, back in the last year, it was with Chris Atterbury before he took over Corey Provis' spot. But he gave Carlos Correa a lot of credit. And it was, Correa is down 0-1, hits a ball that, double play. It's carbon copy. All of us remember all those double plays last year and how demoralizing that could be. But he goes out and turns just an excellent double play with Soto up. And what Molitor was impressed with was that he didn't take such an immensely frustrating double play to ground into out to the field with him. And I think, granted, these guys are professionals, and so you don't expect them to take things out there. But human nature would dictate that you're frustrated, especially late in the game. You haven't scored in what feels like forever. I don't know. I think that's a good teaching tool, a leadership thing where it's like, even if you're not swinging it well, or you're swinging it well and not getting rewarded, you can't take it out in the field with you. And those are small leadership qualities that teams not only look for, but value very, very greatly.
Totally. And you can see why he kind of played that into his contract, his leadership, his place in the clubhouse. And you know what? Younger guys are going to see that from him. You're going to have Edward Julian, who, they had a guy dead in the water, Gleyber Torres trying to steal second base. He couldn't hang on to the ball, even though they had him beat. He was probably frustrated by that. Carlos is a perfect example of somebody who can, leave that pass behind him and keep playing the game and keep putting competitive at-bats or, chances in the field together.
And what I really like about it, too, is that I can't imagine a better partner on that side of the infield for Royce Lewis when he's healthy. I mean, the guy that Royce Lewis wants to become someday is Carlos Correa. I mean, I know, Derek Jeter's probably on that list, too. But, we'll definitely enjoy seeing Royce back, hopefully sooner rather than later. Let's break down Clarke Schmidt, because I don't think fans know a lot about him. A lot of breaking balls with him. So He throws two different fastballs. He'll throw a two-seamer and a cutter. So basically, pitches that do two different opposite things. Then he'll bring a sweeper to the table about a quarter of the time. And then the not so often seen knuckle curve. I kind of like the knuckle curve as a concept. I feel like I've missed that since Mike Mussina retired. I'll bring back the knuckle curve, but he has thrown 297 breaking balls this year and allowed a 206 average and a 317 slugging percentage. So with a guy like that, 276 average on the fastball, 460 slug, basically it comes down to, can you lay off the breaking ball? Can you eliminate it if he's not locating it? And basically sit and hunt fastballs. The issue there is he's pitched so well this year that it's really hard to feel like that's going to be an option.
Yeah, for sure. He's turned into quite the kind of cornerstone in that rotation, especially with Garrett Cole out. Tomorrow, like you said, it's going to be pretty important to see some of the improvements that we've seen from the post-hype prospects of Jose Miranda, Trevor Larnach, guys like that who have struggled with off-speed and breaking balls in their career so far, but have shown some pretty big improvements this year. This is the chance for them to really show it. Like you said, they either have to lay off of it and not chase, or they have to really punish when they can tee it up in the strike zone.
And it's not as though he's a soft tosser either. He averages 93.1 with the fastball. And so it's a decent chase rate on it. Just a good pitcher. I mean, the fact that Twins fans may not know much about him is maybe not, the be all end all. The name value, again, of Carlos Rodon and Marcus Stroman is very clearly there. But I think Schmidt is every bit as tough as those guys. So we'll see what he brings to the table. What are you expecting as we get out of here? What are you expecting out of Joe Ryan? Because when he's been on this year, I think, my favorite pitch he throws is that fastball that clips the bottom part of the zone. I don't know if it's like I'm not super versed in the vectors, the pitch effects where it's rise versus whatever. But it seems to me as though it gives the illusion that it kind of clips the bottom of the zone, but the hitter views it as low, and it just kind of it must stay true because it obviously doesn't rise rather. When he's got that going, he's as tough as anybody in this division, maybe even in the AL.
Yeah, for sure. And I think tomorrow it's going to be on full display that first time through the lineup. I am curious to see how he goes about it the second time through. Once guys kind of get their views of that fastball and kind of the effect that it has, they tend to tee it up at the second time through. Opponents are hitting 279 off Joe Ryan when going through the lineup in the second time. That's the highest, second highest among qualified starting pitchers this year. So something he struggled with, especially with that fastball the second time through. But if he can use some of those secondary offerings to kind of keep him off balance, he could be in for something good tomorrow.
Yeah. How do you feel about his secondary pitches? Because if we break it into specific categories, he throws, a slider, a sweeper, they kind of get grouped together if you go off speed, fastball, breaking ball. And it's an interesting thing here. His off speed, he's allowed a 204 average and a 306 slug. Fastball, usually the pitch everybody gets crushed on, 228 average, 380 slug. But the breaking ball, 241, 463 slugging percentage. I don't want to call it an experiment, but he has definitely shown that he wants to add that aspect to his repertoire. Are you on board with how he's approached things so far this year? Or do you think there may be a point where he's like, all right, fastball and changeup is working, we're just going to go back to that?
I think that he's really mirrored his first half from last year. And once it got kind of to the summer months, he started to struggle a little bit with that. And a lot of that was
the groin
putting
issue.
in some cement mixers right down Main Street. And that's where he's been punished this year on that slider. So if he can really execute that, that'll be an awesome, supplement to his repertoire. But otherwise that splitter has been pretty good so far this year. And if he can continue to be effective and play off of that fastball, that'll be huge. And that's kind of the foundation for his game plan for most games.
Yeah, I love his split finger. It's such a nasty pitch when he's locating it the way he wants. And I think the more he uses these breaking balls, the more confident he's going to get in them, the more it's going to be a bonus, a benefit to him. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that he could go blow for blow with Pablo Lopez to be the team's best starter this year. And then you consider that Bailey Ober's pretty dang good outside of that first start in Kansas City. And Chris Paddock has had his moments too. I'll be curious to see if Mr. Festa is up anytime soon. Zebby Matthews had a really good start today at AA. So things are not as bleak on the pitching side of things as I think we may have heard from a lot of Debbie Downers coming into the season. Lou, anything you want to wrap with? I think I want to see not only the Twins win tomorrow, but how about the Timberwolves too? Our friend Ben Beacon needs an opportunity to cover a Game 7, I think.
I totally agree with you. Game 7 would be on May 19th, which is the exact anniversary of the Timberwolves beating the Sacramento Kings in the semifinals in 2003, 2004. It's also Kevin Garnett's birthday. I think would be absolutely huge. We need to see that Game 7.
That at Target Center to lead to that.
Sure.
Wolves have already showed they're not afraid of Ball Arena. Let's see what happens. Hopefully, when the dust settles tomorrow night, there's a Game 7 in the offing. He's Lou Hennessy. I'm Brandon Warren. Thanks for hanging out with us. This has been the Locked On Twins postcast. We'll see you tomorrow night.